That was so painful. Oh my lord. Lordy, lordy, lordy. Alright. Alright, we're streaming. I think I am. Somebody go to YouTube and let me know. Somebody go to the YouTube channel and let me know if this stream is like popping up actually. I don't think it is. I mean, like, it looks like I am. Yeah. I need somebody to go over there, double check that shit. Let's see. Oh, we got movement, I think. Welcome to live chat. Nice. Alright, so do I have to. Nice. Nice. Alright. I think I'm good. I think we did it, you guys. I think we did it. Yeah, I think we did it. Okay, cool. Cool. Cool beans. Cool fucking beans. Hey! Thanks. Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it, yo. Hey! Alright, great. So I can see the chat. Okay, great. We're figuring the shit out, you guys. Okay, we're figuring it out. I can see the chat. Now, I had to set that up first and foremost, before anything else. All the other things, I'll have to do that another time. I'm just gonna have to do that another time. But this is a book club. Hold on, I gotta see. There's a bunch of other shit that I gotta do. Pretty sure. There's a bunch of other shit I gotta do. I gotta add text. I'm such an old person, but not old at the same time. Because sometimes the shit just be good, but then it's not good. You know, I used to have like bells and whistles and all other good shit on here. What is it? AI wallpaper? No, I don't want AI wallpaper. What I want is some text on the screen. Oh, maybe that magic wand thing will do something. Ah, slowly but surely. We got stickers. What kind of stickers we got here? None of those. None of that shit. All right. Music. I don't want music. Voice effects. Don't need that. Sound effects. Don't need that. Effects. Maybe. I just need text. I just want to put text. That's not gonna do it. Background. Boards. Nope, no boards. Close that too. Let's see. You know what? Fuck it. I think we got this far, and that's what matters. You know what I'm saying? That's where we are right now. I'm taking a win is a win in regards to that shit. Okay, well, if you guys want to, um, yeah, if you guys want to really see what I'm reading, by all means. Oh man, how can I? Hmm. Hmm. Maybe it's when I needed to. Okay, I can do like some background type shit. Huh. All right. Well, give me a second. Let's see what I can do here. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Let's see. Nope. We'll do book club, right? Bam. Center that. Nice. Bam. Nope. 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 Bam. Yep. Yep. And then oop. And then we're gonna go back here. We're gonna edit that. I just chop that down. Mad quick. Thank you. Perfect. Save that. Bam. All right, great. Now we go back. We go back here. Hi guys, I am back. 1 second. Give me a minute, I'm figuring this shit out slowly but surely. Background. What can I do for the background? I need a picture. I'm gonna add. Oh, there it is. Bam. That's way too high. Fuck. All right. All right. We're almost there. We're almost there. That just means I gotta do this a little bit. Boop. Enter. 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 Bam. That again. Bam. I don't know. Let's try this. Let's try this one more time. Boop, 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 boop. It's the wrong button. I'm always pressing the wrong shit. Alright, let's see if this works. Bang. Oh! Bam, we're in business, y'all. It's only you, Jordan. That's here. Oh, shit. I should probably. Hold on. Damn, we got like 8 minutes to spare. This is okay. God. Christ. Look, I'm trying to get my shit together, okay? It wouldn't be me if I didn't do this shit last minute? So I'm just trying to make sure everything works. Alright, bam. There we are. There we are. You guys have all the fucking information that you need to have. We're good. Okay. Um. Thank you. Thank you for spending your Saturday with me. I know this shit is not easy. All right. I've been live all this time. I need to make sure people can hear me. Like I don't know if anybody's gonna be here, which is fine. If people aren't here yet or at all, that's okay. I'm gonna edit all this shit down. Oh my god. Cool beans. Once, can you hear that music out there? I told my mother I was quite literally doing a book club, and you know what she decided to do? Blast fucking music. Because of course she did. Okay. All right. Well then, if it's in the background, then I think we're good. All right, guys. Hey, I did that shit with 5 minutes to spare, yo. With 5 minutes to spare. Nice, nice. All right, there we go. Dang, dang, that was hard. I'm trying. Yeah. 1 through 7. Oh. Okay, guys, welcome to the book club. We got 4 more minutes. Um, Okay, well that's fine. We're gonna do a new chat then. I got you. I got you. Don't worry. All right, guys. Well, it's only one person here. It's just me and you, Jordan, and that's all right. I don't mind it. You know what I'm saying? Figuring this shit out slowly but surely. But also, well, that's because you're not plugged in. All right. Well, let me go ahead and plug you back in. Bam. Okay. So, if you are on YouTube, you already know that you can see the book. So while I'm going through all this other stuff and reading all this other stuff, I hope no one has an issue. It's probably illegal for me to share these books, like pages and shit, but nobody knows me. I'm not a real person, so yeah, I'm not real. I'm not real on the tube reviews, so we're good. We're actually fantabulous. All right, bam, there we go. We're waiting. Trini, hey, all right. Now we know we're good. Now we know we're good. We got our people here. You know what I'm saying? Fuck yeah. Share the live. Make sure hey, Trini, I got updates, fam. Go to YouTube. Go to YouTube and see what I've been able to do. See what I've been able to do, man. I'm so proud of myself. No, I was gonna do. I'm trying to do it all across just to like help people make it to certain places. The Patreon for some strange reason won't. Hold on, I gotta go to Patreon and see how I can double stream because I tried to get the coder onto Patreon and it would not work through my OBS system. I think OBS does not have OBS isn't compatible with Patreon just yet or Patreon Live, but I'm you know working on it. Nigga working on it. Nigga working on it. You can't hear me on YouTube, Jordan. Can you hear me on YouTube? I have more volume there, so you guys can barely hear me over there. All right, let's see. Uh, uh, uh. Huh, let me see. Because really, I think what the issue is that I don't have my mic, right? So like through you're only hearing me through the mic on my laptop, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. Thank you. Any mic properties? We're gonna see how this works. Nope, nope, nope. My microphone on. Yeah, because I need a mic. Thank you. Yeah, it is. It's Haitian Heritage Month, so No, a kid had to come represent and shit. Where did I put that mic? Ah, I did not do it. I don't think so. What is this? This is like a microphone. Nope, this is not a microphone. This is my PSP. Wrong thing. Alright, let's see. Let's see what we can get out of the treasure chest. Life is telling me a fucking goose egg. Telling me a goose egg. Alright. I knew I had a fucking mic. I mean, like, I just separated it. Unless I threw it in here. Okay. Am I losing my mind? Am I going crazy? Yes. Yes, I am going crazy. Alright. I'm trying to figure out how I can get this shit to work. Have you? Okay. I have to be losing my shit. It gotta be me. It's gotta be me. It's gotta be me. Because I definitely had a different microphone that I pulled to the side that was connected to that. Magically, shit don't exist. I'm losing my mind. Maybe that's what it is. Huh. That's wild, yo. Alright, let's see. Because what I really try to do is I have this roadcaster. Oh, nothing you can see. Yeah. I got this thing, which you can't see. But it was supposed to fucking oh my god. I don't want to get too distracted by it, but I want you guys to be able to hear me, especially on not hearing a word. Dang, man. What a pain in my ass. What a pain in my ass. Computer on yeah. So like I turned my shit all the way the fuck up. There's really nothing else I can plug into this bitch to make it work. Especially because I don't know where the fuck that other it's gonna knock my ass. I'm starting to get my OCD. Triggered my OCD. My OCD is triggered, you guys. I gotta find it now. Okay, not you. You're not it. You're not it. It's not here. It's not here. It's not there. It's not this. Um. Definitely not this. Okay. It's not in there. It's not over here. In this box. Not in the box. There. Not here. Not over here. Okay. My god. About to lose my fucking mind. About to lose it. I'm about to lose it. Not there. Not this. Not that. Not there. Uh, ah, I want the sound to work. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, 'cause like it's low. Ugh. Okay. How low? Like unbearably low? Is thank you, audios. Thank you, AI Summary. The host is troubleshooting audio issues for the book club. Suggest a solution. Yeah, suggest a solution. Which, mail me. Yeah, yeah. But that's because the TikTok is through my phone, and that's has my direct audio. And this is through my laptop, which I will need to find an alternative for, to be honest. Normally, I would have this connected to my thing. Yeah, because this is not gonna work. I don't think it is. Let's see. Yeah, what is that? This is the. Nope, that's the actual thing. Okay. All right. What that tells me is that I need a mic. Fuck. Yeah, might be, but yeah, I don't know. It might not be. It might not work out if you use your headphones. Where the fuck? I think also why I am like spazzing, not to use ableist language, but the reason why I am getting so flummoxed over it is also because I literally. Oh wow, how many of these things do I have? I did like 30 of these things. That's beautiful. I'm flummoxed by it because I literally had a separate microphone on my desk. Like the homie Dell came through and helped me clean up my office a little bit, and he like helped me get my shit together. And I absolutely found a spare mic just in case the Rodecaster didn't work. And sure enough, the Rodecaster did not work. But the spare mic that I found is nowhere to be fucking found. It's better with your headphones? Alright, well. God damn. Alright, yeah, because I got this thing at like as high of a volume as I can for the mic. So. Oh, God. Alright. I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let it go. And next Saturday will be better. Next Saturday will be better, everybody. Hi. Because also, there's this. Man, I'm gonna have to like really cut this shit down. Working on it. The only thing is that, I want people to be able to go onto the YouTube so that they can like, see the book. Okay. We're gonna let it go. If you're on YouTube, wear headphones. Because you can't hear me, apparently. That's fine though. Or actually, maybe it's me and my shit. Nope, we're not gonna do it. Because there's some other thing. There was another thing I wanted to troubleshoot that I got distracted by. Oh yeah, Patreon. Yeah, the Patreon. I got to do that as well. Hi guys. Right here, Marcel. Get out. Thank you. Sorry. My mom has. Hey, Moss. All right, great. We're building up everybody slowly but surely. as long as you guys are here, that's what matters. Okay. For everybody else who doesn't know, I got the regulars. The regulars are here, so we're just gonna keep it pushing. You know what I'm saying? That's all I needed was you guys to be here. Yeah, Alex. Hell yeah. Oh yeah, this motherfucker. It actually we got two more boys. Somebody gave my mother two purebred fucking Shih Tzu puppies. So yeah, yeah. Can y'all see him? Marcelito. You go on YouTube, you're gonna absolutely see Marcelito. It's not that early. 9 a.m. is not that early. It's not that early. No. Moss, you one of the true blues, fam. You're this is ride or die ground floor type shit. That's what you are. There's like it's Moss, Phil, Trini, um, God dang, Alex. 6 a.m. for you. Damn, I'm so sorry. I tried to make it. I wanted to make it a little bit earlier on Saturdays because I know that you guys have shit to do on Saturday. And if you're just watching me, you're just laying in bed. You really don't have to do anything. You have to get up or anything. So I just wanted to make sure it was early enough where when we wrap it up, you guys can like go out and enjoy your Saturday. My bad. Look, as a community, we can figure out a time that works for everybody. We'll do that. Good. I know, and I'm so proud of you for being outside. Hell yeah. I love it. You know what I'm saying? I need y'all to be outside. Okay, so do. Switching to the Patreon. All right, in like typical me fashion, we're probably gonna start talking about this book in like because I'm figuring everything out with my team. You guys are my what? What happened? Hell yeah, Moss! Fuck yeah! Congrats! Welcome to this side. You're gonna love it. I'm so proud of you. Really am. What are you doing? What are you doing, pops? You just investigating things? Huh? Huh, silly boy? This nigga. I don't want autopilot. I don't know what the fuck that is. All right, here we go. Stop telling me stuff. Stop telling me stuff. Let's see if I can go live and what that looks like. Actually, you know what? I don't know why I'm doing this because I can absolutely figure out how to go live on Patreon in a different way. Other stream source. Ah! Ow, pops. You farting? Ow, my nigga. Okay. All right. We're figuring it out. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, Marcel. I need you. Marcelito? Hi. Hi, Pops. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Everybody. Yeah. Yeah. Farting being doo. Yeah. Okay. Hi. Hi. All right. I love you. Okay. Whew. All right, guys. Now that we've gotten all this shit together, you know, we got the sweetest boy on the planet, being needy. Pop up. Pop up. I'm going to start reading, okay? Pop up. I'm gonna start reading. I love you, Pops. I love you. All right, get down. Get down. Go on. Thank you. Thank you. Good boy. Lay the fuck down. All right. Jesus. Well, all right. We're gonna start at like 9:30. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting my shit together. I'm reconfiguring my life right now. Congratulations, Moss. Everybody, for those of you on the tube reviews who don't know, one of our ride or dies has made the HRT leap. That's exciting. That's very exciting. So that's awesome. I should probably like move. Oh, what me? Guess what I found, y'all? Asking you shall receive, I guess. Asking you shall receive. All right, we'll charge that up. We might have a working mic after all. We might have it going on. All right, so I'm gonna let that charge for a bit, and actually, I'm gonna switch this. I'm gonna move you guys so over here so you can get my pit side. You know, I don't want you guys to see me. You know, you guys actually like them. You guys see my handsome mug. Bam, there we go. You got that. Uh, boom, bada boom, pow, peedy boom, sabadat bone, shazam. Right? Everybody knows what that means. All right, yeah, cool. So now that we got that together, when I go and I go to read, if you guys are on YouTube, don't worry, we're working on the audio shit. I promise you, we're working on the audio shit. Promise you that. Okay. But I only have good sides. Don't start flirting with me already. We just we just started, you guys. We just started. Okay. So wow, nice. All right, let me pull this to the back. I like to see y'all. Bam. Okay, great. You're right. It has to be way more intimate. You know, way more intimate. So updates that I'm trying to do. Things that I'm trying to do. So before we dive into all this stuff, updates. Um, I've been jumping back and forth between Michigan and Richmond, so that's kind of why it's been really really difficult to do the book club and all other good shit. Um, Outside of that though, I'm changing things up. So just like bear with me. I'll know I do things haphazardly. It's gonna be messy until it's not. Okay. So we're changing the Patreon. We're changing my YouTube channel. Changing all of that shit. Okay. I'm revamping everything, changing everything. So the name of the Patreon is going to change. It won't be where it counts. Um, that's change happening, right? You know, keep the streak going. You gotta keep the streak going. But yeah, so things are gonna change. Um, where it counts will always be the YouTube channel, but on the Patreon, changing the name. I'll let me know if you like this. Uh, House Husband Haven will be the Patreon and the book club. Name of the book club. So it's hell yeah, yeah. House Husband Haven. And my goal, especially when it comes to doing the book club and everything like that, is we're gonna make this a little bit more. We're gonna make this a little bit more intimate. You know what I'm saying? I want to be able to read to y'all. Don't worry. That mic thing is one of the reasons why I'm so ate up about the mic is because the mic is a feature of all of this. I want you to be able to hear my voice as clearly as possible. Um, Also, um, once I am not discombobulated because I have to drive to Michigan today, or I gotta drive to Michigan. um, Actually, tomorrow morning. Once I am back settled, with everything and have my setup done and everything like that. It's gonna be a nice intimate setting. Um, yeah, it's gonna be a good time. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna be reading books. Um, I'm going to have a space. I'm going to try to create a space on the Patreon for you guys to do book suggestions. Like Trini had a book, a fiction book that I think was totally fucking cool. That I think you guys would really fucking enjoy and all that other stuff. Like, so I want us to get back into building the community. But yeah, so that's the update. I'm changing fucking everything. I'm gonna try my best to like slowly wean off of TikTok and bring everything. Hey, baby. Everybody say hi because fiance's here. I'm going to try to move everything off of TikTok. We're going to do more YouTube, more, hey, what's up, Potted? Thank you, man. I've been really trying to, like, get my shit together, slowly but surely. All right. Yeah, we're going to shift over to YouTube and Patreon Live. I'm going to try to figure out how I can do those two things simultaneously. Um, just because I can do a little bit more there than I can here, right? So either I got to figure out how to make my streaming on TikTok connected to YouTube, so what you see on YouTube you see on TikTok, or vice versa, one of the two. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna try to do. Um, and all that. Today though, since it's been so long, it's been a very long time, and last I checked, we were in chapter 8. Uh, we're gonna do a brief overview of everything first, right? And then we're just gonna start chapter 8. I don't remember that shit. I don't remember that shit. If you guys are new to the book club, which is fine, you can be new. Um, Essentially, what we do here, you did not miss us. Oh yeah, no, we're still in. Actually, yeah, you did miss us last weekend. Essentially, what we do here at the book club is we sit, we chill, and we read. The book that we are reading right now is Vulture Capitalism, Corporate Crimes, Backdoor Bailouts, and The Death of Freedom by Grace Blakeley. If you are watching me on the Tube Reviews, you will see that that book is on the live right now. So, if you don't have the book, that is fine. You don't have to. We are going to be reading this stuff together. We're going to be digesting this information together. We're going to be learning together. That's the whole point of this. You know what I'm saying? So, we're going to do an overview of chapters 1 through 8, or 1 through 7, really. We're going to figure out what we've gotten to so far, have a little bit of discussion about that, all that good shit. If you don't have the book and you want to download it for yourself, don't worry. We have resources for you to be able to do that. If you don't want to download the book at all, you just want to sit and watch me read to you, that's cool too. If you want to see what I'm reading, go ahead, hop onto the YouTube Live. Um, it's this thing right here. And the book is there on the live. So whatever I'm reading, y'all can see. Okay? So, I don't want to give away my, you know, I don't want to give away my shit. Oh, wow. No, that look weird. Okay. I need to bring the oop. Yeah, so if you want to see it, it's there. Alrighty. I think that's all. Oh no! Oh no! My condolences. How's Logan holding up? I mean, I know you guys were out there trying to make sure that she was good and everything like that. So I'm glad that you guys were able to be there for her. That's good. Yeah, yeah. Okay, guys. Well, I'm so sorry. we really gonna have to like link up. We're really gonna have to link up and like, do something. Uh, dang, I don't know how to segue away from that. That's so sad. Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know, that sucks. No. Don't worry. That's part of life. You know, we're a community. We're we're a village. So let's take a moment to just give give thoughts to Jordan Logan's grandma that passed. Yeah. All right. Cool. Um, I'm gonna drink this nasty ass tincture, and then we're gonna fucking start. For those of you who don't know, my mother makes tinctures. Hey, what's up? How you doing, Des? It's been a minute. Yeah, my mom makes tinctures. This has a bunch of like shit in it. She just gave it to me. She wants me to drink it. I think it's like lemon, cayenne pepper, freshly squeezed orange juice, fucking uh, a cinnamon stick is in here. Some black pepper kernels is in here. It's a bunch of shit. So okay. Mm, mm. But I got 2 minutes. I got 2 minutes to get this down. Oh my god. Oh yeah. I got the water right here. Oh my god. Goddamn cinnamon sticks. Oh my god. It's terrible when you do it slow. Ugh. 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 Okay. All right, we're in it. We're in it. Okay. Ugh. My eyes are watering. Oh my god, that was terrible. Oh man, I'm never drinking that slow. Drinking it slow is no, it's not just turmeric in that. It's not just turmeric. That woman's trying to kill me. All right, I think it was turmeric, cayenne, ginger, lemon, fresh squeezed lemon, freshly squeezed orange juice, cayenne pepper, apple cider, peppercorn, and a cinnamon stick for flavor. The cinnamon stick ain't doing shit. It ain't doing a fucking thing. Right. Oh my god. That was terrible. Ooh, excuse me. It's officially 9:30, guys. Let's get into it. um, welcome to the book club. We are going to be doing a quick summary. For those of you who don't know, again, we were reading Vulture Capitalism by Grace Blakeley. Um, we basically got through like halfway through the book before I had to take a hiatus and all that good shit. So, in chapter one, it was titled How to Get Away with Murder. And it opens up with Blakeley talking about the 2018 to 2019 Boeing 737 MAX disasters, right? That is where those 737 MAX airplanes were just like falling out of the sky randomly. It killed up to like 346 people, right? So the crashes resulted in Boeing or the crashes happened because Boeing decided to prioritize profits and share prices over actual safety. So the chapter pretty much goes over how Boeing did a merger and essentially shifted from a engineer centered focus to a profit maximization focus, right? Got a bunch of safety things out and all this other shit. Um, the faulty MCAS system that caused the planes to like how it happened, how these planes were crashing is they had a faulty MCAS system that they put into the planes. It was supposed to help the pilots to actually land the planes and everything like that. But what they didn't do is one, train those pilots on that new technology, and two, um, they didn't troubleshoot the software. So oftentimes the plane would nosedive because of the MCAS system randomly. So because of that, planes were just fucking crashing, right? So yeah, that's basically it. So despite the deaths, Boeing received $17 billion worth of COVID bailout money. $17 billion they got, right? And they did like, yeah, their CEO who got fired, they gave him 62. Oh no, hold on, there it is. All right, okay, whew, yeah. So they after all these crashes, the CEO of Boeing got fired, but they gave him a $62 million severance for killing almost 400 people. You can kill 400 people. It'll be fine. It's not going to be a big deal. Who's counting? Anyway, I know I'm not. So essentially, this like sets up the premise that Blakely is trying to argue, which is that we often think of, yeah, unfortunately, Spirit is about to be out of business for all of that. For keeping everybody safe, Spirit is about to file for bankruptcy. Yeah. Oh, 3 a.m. One of those. No. Dang. Spirit about to be a spirit is fucking true on that. Facts on that. So yeah, they got to kill 400 people. The CEO got $62 million in a severance. Um, and essentially, what Blake argues here is that Boeing's close relationship with the United States government, including defense contracts, tax breaks, political connections, all of that, it demonstrates that capitalism is not just defined by free markets. Oftentimes when we hear capitalists talking, they're always bringing up free market and how that's just some invisible hand that is coming in and just moving things all on its own. It's just so intuitive. Really, it's not. What Blake is are setting up here in the chapter is highlighting that um, having a domination of society by capital, which is the relationship between capitalists who own the means of production and workers who sell their labor, capitalism really requires like a pervasive centralized planning by corporations and not just states. You know, really what economists usually try to argue is that the state does all these plannings, right? The free market is just just willy nilly amorphous force that happens, and that's not true. I think we're really living that real life, you know. So after that, we get this setup. Blakely is basically arguing that capitalism has is really rooted in centralized planning by corporations, right? So when we fall into chapter two, which is titled The United States of Fordlandia. Boop. Boop. Actually, does that look. Eh. Let's spread that out. Yeah, that's a little better. I just want to make sure. Somebody let me know on YouTube if you can see the printed words, because I'm really just practicing. But yeah, once we get to the United States of Portlandia, this chapter traces the history of Ford Motor Company. I think we all know Ford, and all the things that Ford does. I'm trying to find like a good place. All right, yeah, I think that's better. I like y'all here, where I can look directly. Um, all right. So chapter 2 goes over the history of the Ford Motor Company to show how capitalist planning has evolved, right? So we go from, Henry Ford pioneering the assembly line production, which we all know that story. Or let me not assume. We don't all know the story of Henry Ford. Some of us don't read books, and some of us are very, very young. So, for those who don't know, Henry Ford is the guy who created the Ford, car. He's the one that came up with that shit. He also was heavily invested in how to organize labor and his workers, maximize exploitation. So Ford pioneered the assembly line, right? So you get 5 people in a row. One person just puts the wheels on the axle. The next person puts the body on the car, so on and so forth. Right? This is how you're going to maximize that productivity. Henry Ford came up with that. But he also exercised authoritarian control over his workers' lives, including through the $5 day. So in this chapter, it talks about how the $5 day tied wages to behavioral compliance, right? Because one of the things that we kind of ignore about these corporations is that they do, in fact, yes, not only just an idol of Schindler, but a Patreon, one would say, of Schindler. A lot of money and a lot of correspondence transferred between Ford and Schindler because Ford was also a raging anti-Semite. Motherfucker was crazy. Okay, so one thing that we kind of don't really address culturally is the fact that or not governments, but corporations also want to have control of how you behave outside of the work sphere. And I think, like, on an implicit level, we understand this because um we weaponize that against each other all the time. Let a motherfucker say some shit, do some shit on this app. But what's the first thing that people do? They start calling people's jobs. They start trying to fire people. Okay? So that's basically what that is. Um, so Ford also had a big investment in trying to dictate what his workers do outside of the plant. Right? So Ford attempted to build a place called Fordlandia, which is a company town in the Amazon rainforest. And he did this as an exercise in corporate sovereignty and treating territory as a blank slate for corporate control. Now, I want you to keep that in mind because right now, today, our tech oligarchs like Peter Thiel and Alex Karp, all them motherfuckers, they have a Fordlandia of their own in Latin America, right? So we're gonna see that theme. It's a common thing that they like to do. So they will go to Latin America because Latin America can be corrupt thanks to America, and they create these little towns and these little experiments. That is happening right now. Peter Thiel and all of them are doing that right now. One could argue that one of the reasons why Donald Trump had a random fascination with Greenland is because they wanted to expand doing exactly what Ford did with Ford India. Right? So during World War II, Ford supplied both the Allied and German war machines. including manufacturing vehicles for Hitler's army. Right. So post-war, organized labor gained power. And if you want to know a deeper dive on this, I've been putting a lot of people onto this book. Oh damn! There we go. I'm putting a lot of people onto this book. If you don't see it, boom. Okay. Capital Order by Clara Mattei goes into great depth on how labor in the interwar period, got a lot of those gains, and after the interwar period. Right? So after World War II, which I don't know, pause, but it is not a coincidence that the labor force, like labor movements, get their greatest strides after Great Wars. It happened after World War One, it happened after World War Two, and lo and behold, it's like we're getting into another global conflict that's big enough to probably cause a lot of things to happen. So yeah, fucking after the war, organized labor gained a lot of power, right? So this is where you get a lot of the socialist programs that America know and loves and all this other shit. A lot of labor rights start coming in after World War II, primarily because after World War II, you're getting things like the VA loan, you're getting things like GI Bill getting passed. No. Would you say we're ask questions? That's another thing. We're all learning this together. You're supposed to ask questions. I'm gonna try to keep my eye on. Oop, there we go. I'm also gonna try to keep my eye on all the chats and shit. So yeah, ask all the questions that you can and that you want to. But yeah, I don't know if I would say we're I don't know if I would say we're in a third world war. Um, no, you're fine. The flow state, we new to this. We're not new to this. We true to this. Okay, so yeah, I wouldn't say that we're in World War III just yet. I think because really it's just the United States against everybody, as it is right now, and everyone's just defending themselves. I think if Russia actually puts its hat in the ring and starts hitting America directly, we could have an argument that says we are. If China, like once the if the opposing side, once the opposing side stops playing proxy war and actually starts shooting direct, then yes. Yeah. But as it is right now, the only person shooting directly is the United States. And when is the United States not shooting at somebody? You know what I'm saying? Like that's the constant. How everybody's gonna respond is what needs to change. And I think everyone is really waiting for the United States, or not the United States, but waiting for either Russia or China to really put more emphasis into rebuffing. And I think China has their own ethos about things and minding people's business. They're very, very much, Persian Empire with that shit. They're very Ottoman Empire with that shit. So they're not really trying to do too much. And Russia really can't. Right? Globalization, I think, kind of hinders us from being able to have a world war because everybody's dependent on everybody. And, as we can see with the closing of the Strait of Hormuz, that shit is bad for business. So it makes it hard. I think once everybody is hurting enough and everybody gets properly mad at the United States, then we'll have a world war. That's for sure. Yep. All right. So thank you, AI Summary, for doing that. I fucking hate this AI Summary. I would agree that the fall of, yeah, I think this, yeah, it was. Enough people died from that. Enough people, um, like the fall of the USSR was I would say it was a global catastrophe primarily because the USSR was the only real counterweight to the expansion of capitalism. For better or for worse. They have their own interests and their own flaws and faults and all other shit. But the communists and socialists that give a fuck about Russia like that, they can argue about. The fact of the matter is that a lot of countries in the global south were depending on the USSR's existence. It was like, prior to everybody getting nukes, having the USSR, backing you was one of the few ways that you can get the United States or the West from wholesale dicking you down. Once they fell, that left a lot of countries, a lot of nations, unbelievably vulnerable. So because of that alone, like I don't think Cuba would be where it is right now if the USSR didn't collapse. I don't think that a lot of African nations would be where they are right now if the USSR didn't collapse. And as you can see, when did that happen? 1990, 1989. So it's taken over 30 years to. It's taken the world over 30 years to get a comparable counterweight to Western hegemony, and specifically U.S. hegemony, and that was China. And that I think that was a fluke. That was just by luck. That was really by the grace of American laziness and greed that China is even in the position that it is in. Because America didn't transplant its manufacturing to China and to places like India, and if Great Britain didn't transplant its manufacturing and all that stuff to places like India and China, um, we would be in a very different world. But because of that, it created the space for China to grow and build and really, you know, escape that, that debt trap that the West was putting everybody in. So, like, we're just at the beginning stages of that. We're just at the beginning stages of counterweight coming back, and the world has to. We haven't even healed from the loss of the USSR. So a lot of we there's a lot of things that need to be undone before we can start doing at the very least. I hope that answered your question. So was manufacturing moved to fuck the workers? Both, both. Porque no los dos, ambos, ambos. Right. So I think when we look at NAFTA, you know, NAFTA is coming around. You in the late '80s, really, I would say the early '80s is when the idea of NAFTA is really starting to be publicly floated by politicians. The Republicans wanted it for the longest fucking time. George H.W. Bush was trying to get that shit through, and it didn't really work out, right? Because when a Republican does it, they they say the quiet parts out loud, right? So when Republicans talk about these capitalistic ideas, they are like, "Look, we're going to do this because fuck you," and a lot of people are like, "No, go fuck yourself," because that's just Republicans tend to be very abrasive that way. The liberals and the Democrats are like, "Oh no, but we're going to do this because this might help you, and do this and do that, and then with this, and then with this procedure, and then with this rule, and then when we do this now, and we flip it around, and we do that, and then it'll be great." So they hit you with a bunch of legalese to the point where you're just like, I don't know, do whatever you want, you know. So when that happens, and Bill Clinton passes NAFTA, that really is to fuck over the labor force. Bill Clinton, I think, after the '70s and the rise of Reagan, there was a vested interest over the next like 10 to 15 years of just fucking over workers. And NAFTA was death knell for that. They were doing all these things to like kind of tie the hands of unions, and they were already chipping away the power of unions in the United States. And NAFTA was just that um, one last butt plug up the ass of the labor movement in America. So they knew that they wanted cheaper labor. They knew that they could get that shit someplace else, and and for NAFTA it was in Canada and Mexico. Like, we'll just have the Mexicans do it. And yeah, so it was to fuck over the workers, but also because they would, it's very much like fuck you. I can give me a slave. That's literally what they did. Which is par for the course for the United States. That's basically what the Brits were doing when they came over here with the 13 colonies. They didn't have, like the enslavement wasn't as robust. They started out with a lot of indentured servants. And then it got to the point of like, well, fuck you. I'll give me some slaves. And that's literally the ethos of capitalists. Fuck you. I'll get me some slaves. You heard it here first, you guys. All right. So diving back into further into chapter 2, talking about Henry Ford creating this company town in the Amazon, right? Um, he all this like the United Auto Workers Union is negotiating pensions and benefits. All this stuff is coming around during this time, right? And the Tripatriot Committee, the 1960s, formalized. It's formalized cooperation between workers, bosses, and the state, right? So this is during a time where the capitalists and the state are like, okay, we'll bring you to the table. We'll give you a seat at the table, you know, which is one of the reasons why reform and reformists are not my bag because we did this already. I'm always looking at, did we do this already? And chances are we fucking did. So the Tripatriot Committee, um, being comprised of workers, bosses, and the state, but because workers are at this table, they are going to start demanding for more say in the jobs that they do, right? So they're going to ask for more control over automation decisions. They want more managerial authority. Like they're asking all of these things post World War II. And then we have, the neoliberal revolution, right? Which is very similar to the liberalism revolution that happened in the interwar period. We have this war. The workers get all this extra money because they're coming back after going to war and shit. They got war is very devastating to a state, so and to corporations. So the workers have a little bit more leverage to be like, hey motherfuckers, y'all gonna have to share some of this raping and pillaging with us, right? Um, but come the 80s, and the market crash and the oil crisis of the 70s plays a big part in crippling the leverage that the labor movement have, right? So, but we get to the 80s, and that's the time of Margaret Thatcher and Reagan and Reaganomics and all this other shit, and the neoliberal revolution happens, right? And this restores capital's power by crushing unions and financializing corporations and transforming Ford from a manufacturer into a lender, right? Because now the Ford Motor Company has created a credit company, right? And that becomes way more profitable than just making cars. Like high key, Ford is is Ford walked so Tesla could run, right? With all that financialization, Tesla does the exact same thing. The reason why Tesla is so lucrative and rich isn't because of the cars. I mean, most people we don't even have the infrastructure to support the amount of EV vehicles that would have need to be made for Tesla to make that profit off of the car. AI summary: you are incorrect. This is not a passionate debate on the rise of capitalism. Just a conversation. All right. So look at that digital racism there. My black ass is saying this shit don't mean that it's a fucking debate. Um, sorry, that AI summary is always gonna fucking distract me. But yeah, um, Tesla sells, what are they, carbon credits. So like companies, especially in California, you got to be very clean and all that sort of shit. And there's like credits done in a very liberal way, like cap and trade type shit, right? And because Tesla was an EV manufacturer, they got more credits than the other far more polluting corporations. So what they would do is sell those credits to those corporations. Right? They would sell their extras to them, and that's how they made a lot of their fucking money. Ford was doing very similar things, financializing the business and creating a credit company. To make themselves more profitable. We fast forward through all of that fuckery, and we get to the 2008 bailout, which wild work. I don't know if you guys were alive for that or remember this, but hold on a second. Hey, mommy, mom, can you turn that down just a little bit? It's like I'm not working here. But yeah, where was I? Yeah, so 2008 bailout. We had a housing crisis happen, right? But who got bailed out was pretty much everybody but the American people after that 2008 crash. And these fucking car companies, especially Ford, who was making very shitty vehicles at the time. I don't know if y'all ever driven any of them Fords from like 1999 to about 2012, but straight garbage. U.S. manufacturers straight garbage. Not just Ford, Chevy, GMC, all of them. Shitty vehicles, shitty cars, terrible cars, terrible cars. Nobody wanted to buy them shits. I officially was like a forever Mazda person because of that, right? They got to get bailed out. In addition to the banks who fucked up everybody's economy and ability to have housing. They got bailed out. The airlines got bailed out. Literally everybody but the people got bailed out for the 2008 crash, right? And that saved Ford, um, especially through backdoor channels. So in this chapter, in chapter 2, Blakely is essentially arguing that neoliberalism didn't end planning, right? It didn't end who got to have control over planning things. TikTok stream is glitching. Let's see if we can fix that. It might just be my internet. How we're looking as far as like good? Yeah. Also, if TikTok is fucked up, we got YouTube. You gotta pick your poison. The audio on YouTube, not that great right now. Actually, let me see. Let me see. Let me see. I don't know if this is gonna work. We about to find out, my nigga. We about to find out. Okay? Yeah, we are about to please. Nope, that's not it. Do I need to plug it in directly? I feel like that's what I need. Yeah, we're not there yet. That's not gonna do it. What is? Maybe if I put it on this. All right, all right. I think we're cooking with grease a little bit. Give me a second. Properties. A testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Uh, YouTube guys, people on YouTube in the YouTube chat. Uh, how's the audio now? If you're on YouTube, let me know because I just switched this out. I'm gonna try to bring the I'm gonna try to bring the volume down so it doesn't sound like I'm fucking killing y'all. Hey.
Hey, word. How about now? How do you like me now? And that was, who is that? Toby Keith? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hell yeah. You like that? You like when I'm in your ears? You like when you can hear me nice and clear? Huh? You like that shit? Yeah. Start holding the mic like this. I'm like, can you hear me? Hey, girl, I need you to take a break. Drink some water. I don't know. Because but yeah, I need you to take a break, drink some water. You know. Oh, you want eye contact? Hey, you drink water today? I need you to. It's almost 11. I understand it's Saturday, but have you fed yourself? Nourished yourself? Because that's what I need you to do. We're learning about some very unsavory things. We can't do that on an empty stomach. How'd y'all like that? Hell yeah. Of course, Logan. Let's see. All right, cool. Well, you guys, if you want top-notch audio, we got the audio now, y'all. Take your ass to YouTube. Nigga figured it out. It only took me 4 hours, but I got it. Oh man, good times. Okay, great. Yeah, so yeah. Just as a tidbit, if y'all want to see what it is that I am talking about, go to the YouTube channel. Okay, go to the YouTube channel. The link is in the description. All that good stuff. You know, you can have it on the big screen. I got a mic now. I don't know where I should. Excuse me. I don't know where I should put this mic. That is not gonna be like. Ooh, how about just right here? Yeah, just right here. You're on my chest now. I can do that. Anyways, let me stop. You know, I don't want to tempt y'all too much. Let me get my shit together. Okay, so here we are. Chapter at the end of chapter 2, or the chapter 2 argument is that neoliberalism didn't end planning. It changed who plans, right? Who gets to plan society and how society is run and whose interests are being served with those plans, right? So we go from labor having more say in the planning of things to capital having more say in the planning of things. I mean, capital really just takes over completely by the time we get to the 1980s. Capitalism has won. The corporations, it ain't nothing but up from that point in time. They are slowly but surely rolling back all of the gains of every single labor movement we have ever experienced from the end of slavery till today. That's essentially what these motherfuckers are doing. Right. So fast forward, we're going into chapter 3, which is called Disaster Capitalism. Now, I don't know about you nerds, but if you know anything about Naomi Klein, that was like her call, you know, the shock doctrine, disaster capitalism. That was her claim to fame. She really did connect the dots on how these corporations are able to make millions upon millions of dollars, essentially, you know, using disasters and the need that people will have automatically because they're trying to, like, you know, not die. They can make, come to find out, when people don't want to die, they're willing to spend as much money as possible to not do that. It's kind of insane. You know, who knew? Who would have thunk? Who would have thunk it? Not me. Not fucking me. So, in chapter 3, we're examining how crisis are exploited to benefit the powerful, right? And it's particularly dives into COVID and how the PPP loans were able to distribute $800 billion to businesses. Evil laugh. Yeah, so with the PPP loans, $800 billion were redistributed to businesses, with most of that money going to owners of capital rather than the workers, right? So publicly traded companies, political donors, and even members of Congress got to get these fucking loans while laying off workers and, getting paid dividends. Right? So the corporate landlords used the crisis of COVID-19 to evict tenants and, get rid of people and like reorganize their housing, despite the fact that there was a moratorium at the time. These motherfuckers were still kicking people out of their homes during this. Like, never underestimate. Every single time there's a crisis, these motherfuckers are going to kick people out their homes. Okay, they're gonna kick people out their homes. A lot of people are gonna end up being homeless and shit. I'm just gonna make this just a little bit smaller. I feel like y'all can see the text on this right now. Yeah, so we're just make that a little bit smaller. Just gonna do that right there, so that you can see my, you know, I was gonna show off the guns. Anyways, yeah, not to be vain. Sorry, sorry, I can't help it. Yeah, that awkward moment when you're trying not to fucking perish. Wild work. Very difficult thing to do. You know what I'm saying? Very difficult thing. Anyways, so yeah, they basically use disasters to make money, right? We see this with COVID. We saw this with the 2008 crash. We saw this with Hurricane Katrina and the hurricanes and all this other shit. The next major natural disaster or whatever, we're definitely going to see that happen yet again, right? They're just going to continue to find ways to rob us blind. Fun times. I think that's just I think that's just swell. That's just so awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait to see the new way that they siphon trillions of dollars out of us, So in the 2008 financial crisis, we have AIG getting bailed out with a 882 or 182 billion dollar bailout, right? And this was primarily to save Goldman Sachs, which had essentially during the 2008 crisis, they betted against their own clients. So they sold their clients shit that they knew was going to fuck them over and then bailed them out. Dirty shit. Dirty scunt shit. Okay? Dirty scunt shit. That's what these people are. Henry Paulson, who would be put into the Fed. He was a Fed chair at a certain point. That motherfucker was a former Goldman Sachs CEO and was central to this decision. He was central in making sure that Goldman Sachs got saved. So now we're seeing that revolving door from corporate board to federal official or politician, whichever way. That's the revolving door of these things, right? Only one banker out of everybody who fucked over everything in 2008, only one of the motherfuckers went to jail. Just one. Right? Meanwhile, 10 million Americans lost their home in 2008. 10 million Americans lost the ability to have shelter, while only one CEO went to prison for doing that shit. And he didn't even go to prison for fucking over 10 million Americans. He went to prison because he was essentially doing fraud with his other banker buddies, and they didn't like that. And that's why that motherfucker went to jail. Isn't that crazy? So we have McKinsey and Company, which is a think tank that Pete Buttigieg once worked for. A lot of, if you dive into McKinsey, you'll find that there are a lot of Democrats and Democratic politicians that people are going to tell you that you need to vote for no matter what, who worked for McKinsey. Keep that in mind, because history and context is everything. So they profited from the pandemic by consulting, companies and businesses, while having advised Purdue Pharma on turbocharging OxyContin sales, right? So McKinsey Company A company that, for example, someone like Pete Buttigieg got his bona fides in, went out of their way to convince Purdue Pharma to turbocharge OxyContin sales. Whatever could go wrong with that? You know? The chapter 3 essentially argues that crises are collective action problems that states solve by forcing capitalists to cooperate, but always in capital's interest, right? So again, this chapter is arguing that for major crises, those are collective action problems. Everybody got to chip in to make sure everybody survives. And it is at that point that the state steps in to make corporations chip in. But how the setup is for us is that the state makes sure that the corporations get to benefit when they do chip in to save us from a crisis that chances are they created in the fucking first place. Wild work, but that's what that is. So cost of living inflation is driven not by like wage price spirals, but by profit price spirals, right? So like, your cost of living is not because of, everybody's making a bunch of money, with their wages being so awesome and they're just spending things. No, it's about profit. It's on the supply side, right? So profit price spirals, that's what's going to dictate the cost of living as corporations use market power to raise those prices. We're seeing that right now with the gas prices and everything like that. Like, I mean, should gas be this high in America right now? No. But because everyone is aware that gas prices are going to be high eventually, these motherfuckers are just, raising that shit right now. They're just doing it just for the fuck of it and pretending that it's going to be because of, the other markets where gas is needed, you know, all that shit. There's no real innovation. There's no like, hey, let's figure out how to build like a refinery where we can start using more of our own oil. None of that shit's gonna happen. Them motherfuckers are just gonna price gouge the fuck out of us. So can't wait for the summer on that one. Climate breakdown is probably the greatest collective action problem that we will ever face. But quote unquote green planning by capitalist states will likely reinforce existing inequalities rather than challenge capital's power. So as we get further and further and further into the destruction that climate change is going to bring, more likely than not, there's not going to be any real innovation to deal with that problem. There will just be more and more creative ways to suck the marrow out of the people. That's essentially what they're going to do. And that's what chapter 3 is arguing. All right. So after chapter 3, we dived into chapter 4, which is in the second part of the book called The Planners. Essentially, us figuring out, like, we're talking about in this book, from chapter 1 to 3, we're talking about all this planning and who gets the plan, who doesn't get the plan. In chapter 4, we start diving into who those planners actually are, right? And this chapter is titled American Made Sweatshops, How Big Business Plans. Okay. So in chapter 4, this chapter is analyzing Amazon as a case study in corporate planning. And because to America, corporate planning, and I'm sorry if you asked this in the chat, I totally lost the. There you are. Yo, listen up. Here's a story. Sorry. Ooh, dang, that was random. Yeah, in America, disaster capitalism is the patriotic thing, right? Like that's what's patriotic in the eyes of America is how do you make a profit off of this? How do you exploit? And there's nothing more patriotic than using a disaster to make a quick buck. We saw this in Wolf of Wall Street. Like this is something that is in our culture. That scene with the guy who's the Punisher, and he's like, show me how to, sell me this pen. And the guy is like, hey, write down your phone number. And the guy's like, I don't have a pen. He's like, well, you can have this one for $2. Done, right? That's essentially creating a situation that, without a shadow of a doubt, you're going to need the item that's being sold, right? And the most extreme iteration of that is disaster capitalism, right? These corporations are creating these disasters to make it so that, without a shadow of a doubt, the solution to it is the thing that they have to sell you, right? And that can get very convoluted, okay? Like, we're going to see that with AI. They haven't figured out. I think one of the main reasons why AI is not going as far as as they plan for it to do is because they haven't figured out how to sell AI to us, right? It's a cool novelty tool, right? It's awesome, for eggheads like me. It might be able to help me to summarize a bunch of shit or to condense a lot of information so I can get the tidbits, like tidbit context for something like a bigger picture that I'm trying to figure out. But I'm not paying for that shit. I'm not paying to do something that I could just do myself, but I'm just lazy. So they have to figure out how to create some type of need for AI, and they have not done that yet. And I think they haven't. I don't think they're ever going to be able to, because they're just not creative enough, and they're probably just going to force it on us. Not probably. That's what they're doing right now, which is why we have an AI summary that is consistently wrong. It's been consistently wrong this entire fucking life. So it's like we're just stuck with this shit. But yeah. So in chapter 4, we're gonna analyze Amazon as a case study, right? And a case study specifically in corporate planning, like how corporations plan. Amazon dominates e-commerce and uses Prime subscriptions to lock in customers while directing them to its own products. Okay, so Amazon essentially has like 40 to 60% market share of e-commerce. That is a monopoly. And because they have that monopoly, they get to swing their dicks around pretty violently, right? I don't know if you guys have heard all of the different stories of how sellers and retailers will go on Amazon to sell their things because Amazon owns that market, that digital market space. And if it's a popular enough thing, Amazon will create an Amazon version of that item that the retailer is selling and push the Amazon picked item over the retailer's item. They've done this dozens and dozens of times. They will bury your shit below 14 different pages of Amazon picks, all that stuff. They're able to do that because they have the majority market share of e-commerce, right? You can't really pay. You got to pay to play with them motherfuckers, right? So the business model depends on hyper exploitation of workers, specifically warehouse workers, right? So let's keep in mind, though the guy who set the toilet paper factory on fire wasn't an Amazon worker, that toilet paper factory is probably modeling and structuring its factory very much like how Amazon has their factories, right? Which Amazon, which is funny. Like, not to go on a tangent, but if you look at the thread of it all, Amazon essentially copied their factory model off of Walmart's model as far as like labor construction. They just digitized it. So they essentially just did what Walmart did, but made it for online. And they hit the ground running. So before Amazon, it was Walmart that was ruining everybody's lives. Now Walmart gets to still do that, but it's just for the poor people. Now Amazon gets to fuck up everybody's shit, right? But yeah, so this business model depends on hyper exploitation of warehouse employees. People can have injuries, like high injury rates at these factories. We all know about that. I don't know if you guys, let me stop saying we all know. There was a story, I think last month, about a worker at an Amazon warehouse who died, just dropped dead, probably of heat stroke because, climate change. And they just let that body sit there for like 2 hours. They didn't do shit about it. And they made all of their workers, just continue to work around this dead body. That's how exploitative these factories are, right? And they also aggressively fight against unionization. Like they be hiring the Pinkertons and everything. And if y'all don't know about the Pinkertons, I highly recommend y'all do some research about the Pinkertons. That is like one of the most evil companies. They are one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, hands down. The Pinkertons, like prolifically pieces of shits, prolifically. All right. So, in addition to all that exploitation and union busting, Amazon also tax dodges a lot, like any other corporation in this motherfucker, right? So they, in 2021, they paid like 6%. Or no. Yeah. In 2021, they just paid like 6% of taxes off on their profits in the US, right? And they didn't pay shit in Europe. So in Europe, they didn't pay any taxes. And in the United States, they just paid 6%. The rest of us got to pay up, no less than like 34% in taxes. So fun time for that one. Fun time for that shit. You know, they also like to accelerate climate breakdown because they have, they emit enough carbon and they have enough emissions that's basically the equivalent to entire countries. Um, and, they also like exert political influence over, various nations political process, right? So they'll do donating to campaigns. They'll be, they'll buy whole ass publications because that's essentially what Washington Post was. When Jeff Bezos bought Washington Post, that was him trying to have control of a media apparatus to do his, dirty bidding of, manufacturing consent. So in chapter 4, they use a man named Ronald Coase's theory of the firm to explain why businesses even exist, right? They substitute hierarchical authority for market contracts. But while Coase saw this authority as constrained by competition, what Blakely does in this chapter is show that large firms can ignore market pressures, right? We're literally looking at that right now, with our gas companies and all this other shit, just ignoring the pressure. Like one of the reasons why America is able to coast through the Strait of Hormuz being closed this long is because a lot of our corporations can afford to just ignore the shit for as long as it possibly can. Not for long though, like they got about like 15 more minutes before that shit's gonna just ruin everything. So we have Joseph Schumpters, or yeah, is it Schumpters or Schumpeters? Schumpeters? Joseph Schumpeters. Sorry, I got hair on my face. I'm trying to get that off. He has a concept of creative destruction or a temporary monopoly of power rewarded for innovation, right? And that creative destruction basically breaks down that monopolies now lock in power by buying competitors and erecting barriers to entry, right? So we can see this. Do I have an exit plan? I have both. I have a plan for both. Uh, Skinky Banana. Skanky Banana asks, do you have an exit plan or are you staying? I have a plan for both. Because, I don't know. Life is happening right now. So I have to stay, because it takes money and time to set yourself up to leave the country. But I'm also gambling on when I am actually able to leave the country, that will be the time where the country just shuts down. And either no country outside of the United States wants to welcome Americans, or America will not allow for Americans to escape the United States. So you got to plan for both. You got to have plan A, plan B, plan C, D, F, and G to make it through this shit. So I don't know, but we could, if you want, we could dive into what my plans are. We can. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah. So an example of like a monopoly, and I'm working on my PhD and decided to do it overseas. So yes, Smart. Okay, so essentially, what my plan is, one biggest thing was getting out of debt, right? So just to put a pause in this, because we're halfway through the explanation of the review of the chapters. Um, when 2008 happened, it was very devastating for me, right? So after that, I made a decision that I would make sure that I did not have debt, and I would make sure that I always had shelter, right? In a way where I have more control over whether or not I'm going to lose that shelter. When you're in an apartment, it's really, really easy during an economic downturn for your landlord to kick you out. I think a lot of Americans are experiencing that right now, and even more Americans are about to experience just how easy it is for fucking landlords to kick you out and put you out on the street. I never wanted to be subjugated to that. So I did most of my, for the last like 16 years. Well, 2008 was how long ago? Y'all do math. How many years between 2008 and 2026? Let me know that. I think it's 18. Is it 18 years? I feel like it's 18. Yeah. Anyways, for the last 18 years, basically a whole college, yeah. So for a whole high school student of time, I have been working on just having more stable housing and getting out of debt. So basically, that's pretty much where I'm at. Like I bought my house. I'm setting things up where I can, I've set things up right now where I don't like, I have money that I don't have to work for paying on my mortgage, right? Shout out to being a military veteran. So like housing covered. I don't have debt really, like I outside of my mortgage, I don't have debt. So that's been mitigated. I live very, very minimally and all this other shit. All of that is to like make sure that I have some type of avenue of saving. So right now I've been saving my money and shit, getting things together. I got my beautiful fiance. She is right now trying to become a dentist. Thank you so much, Skanky. Yeah, she's trying to become a dentist right now. So really I'm waiting on her. Um, Once that's all done though, and she's doing her thing, we have her set up. We're probably gonna stay here. Since I, not to be all vulnerable with you guys, but since I do own a property, um, I'm in a position where I could probably rent out some of my rooms or whatever, just to like pass the time and all that other good shit. But when push comes to shove, I've also been trying to gain a lot of, you know, skills like you're doing your PhD. I cannot afford to go back to school, so I've been getting a lot of certifications in different things, a lot of training and all this other stuff, so that I can prepare to set up shop someplace else, right? Go overseas, um, and work there, you know. So really the plan is make life as stable as possible in the United States, because I still think that the U.S. as a geography, um, you can still very much benefit from being here, like having land and shit here. So the United States is like the launch pad, and then overseas is the landing pad, and that's essentially what my plan is. It's like I'm gonna have a little bit of here, but I'm also gonna have a little bit of there. Really, as long as things are stable enough, you know, where you can like come and go rather easily. I'm trying to make a corridor, an underground railroad, if you will, where if anyone needs to, they have a place to go to if they have to leave America. And that's what I've been building this entire time. Like if anybody needs to get the fuck out of, I picked the state that I live in very, very on purpose. Virginia has always been somewhat of a purple state. Now it's a blue state. Even though it's connected to the south, it's like one of the few blue southern states. So that's nice. Like I picked the city that I live in. Richmond is a very Richmond is like the Berkeley, California of Virginia. I did that on purpose. Where it is geographically, if all of the water in America, or if like all of the glaciers were to melt, through global warming, Richmond is where the shelf begins, right? Like the land shelf. So the water would not, flood Richmond. Richmond's not going to be underwater. Like all of that shit was very intentional. So that where I am is stable. So that when I need to dip out, I can actually dip out because the infrastructure is not going to be broken. Um, the government is not going to be too wonky or crazy. There's enough adequate airports for me to escape. There's waterways for me to do. Like it's all very strategic planning. So that's basically what I've been doing. It's building my life to that. You want to move to the south, but you're concerned? Nah, man. To be honest, I think at some point in time, I think I was talking to my fiance about this, but I think there needs to be a great migration. I think that black people need to do a great migration back to back to the south. Honestly, truly, everybody need to come back south. Everybody need to come back home. I think if more black people moved to the south, most of us are down here anyway. Um, Especially considering the need for land, all this stuff. Like I think more of us should come back. But I actually have never lived anywhere outside of the South, and I'll tell you this: I prefer it. Like I've done a brief stint in like places like Chicago, fucking Michigan. I see how y'all are living out there in New York and California and all that stuff, and all that shit is cool. But there is nothing like the South. There is something about the South where it's like culturally, everybody just, for the most part, understands mind your fucking business. You can do a lot more in the South than you can in the North just with not having to deal with the government. Like Virginia is pretty much the most northern esque southern state that you can be in. But like, yeah, in Florida, in Texas, in Alabama, you can do a lot of shit. You can do a lot of things in the South without interference that you cannot do in a place like California or New York or like, the Pacific Northwest. There's a lot of like roadblocks and shit. So, yeah, I'm an architect and I have a more direct relationship with capital, worried about making money there. Oh, man, nah. Nah, this is where most of the disasters are going to happen, fam. What are you talking about? We're going to have all the flooding and shit. We're going to need engineers. The South is going to need engineers and architects to figure out how to build infrastructure that'll help us survive. I guarantee I can give you two places. You can go to Norfolk. Norfolk, Virginia is going to need architects and engineers because they're sinking and flooding at the same time. Florida, like Tampa, Florida, they're going to need architects and engineers because they're going to need to update their infrastructure. New Orleans, like the South is, if you really want to fucking find a spot to do some work, you want to build some shit, I guarantee you somewhere in the South is going to need somebody to build some things. Promise you that. So like the South is career stability. Really, you just got to wait for the world to kill us. You just got to wait for global warming to like take hold. But all the natural disasters, all that stuff, and I'm saying this because especially the city of Norfolk, they've been very much aware of how global warming is affecting everything. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, does it matter? That's another thing. Does it matter? Like it don't matter. Come in here and do that shit. Just do it. Be the first. I mean, like you won't be the first, but like fuck it. Fuck it. Find yourself like a nice, predominantly black town, and be like, hey, look, I'm here. Yeah. Think about it. Like yes, the racism is serious in the South, but it is blatant in your face, and you will know exactly where you're not supposed to be, which is something that outside of the South cannot say the same. They can't. You go to California, outside of them gangs, you're not gonna know where you're supposed to be and not supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? Most niggas when they go to California and they go to like Orange County and shit, they stumble like only you gotta be in California for a while to know that you're not supposed to be in fucking Orange County. Like or Bakersfield or whatever the fuck. But in Alabama, you will know. We don't go over there. Like just the whole atmosphere will just let you know niggers are not allowed. You know what I'm saying? Like you just naturally just know. And and I've driven through a bunch of different southern states. It's really palpable to know where you belong and where you don't. And that's like knowing is half the battle. Okay? Knowing is half the battle. So if you know you're not supposed to be, you're not gonna be there. You know? And but also to give the South a little bit more credit, there you can also find more white allies that you can trust. I mean, like, don't fully trust white people in general, but like, Southern whites, especially when you're getting into like them Appalachia areas, like the West Virginia whites, the mountain whites of North Carolina and Virginia and all that other stuff, they're poor. So they really don't have a lot of energy to give a fuck, as deeply as like a Oakland white would give a fuck. Like a San Francisco white person will be up your ass. What are you doing? Do you live here? Are you supposed to be here? Oh my god. They're out here they're making music, sir. Like one of the reasons why a lot of the cities in the South are so shitty is because non-Southern white people have moved to Southern metropolises. Right? So like non-Southern white people have moved to Florida and made it terrible. Non-Southern white people have moved to Texas and made it terrible. You know what I'm saying? Everybody like they don't know the customs and courtesies of the racial interactions that we have in the South, and they've just been fucking it up. I'm a firm believer in that. Like, these motherfuckers came from California and brought their California ideals and all this other shit, and they thought, well, they're just country bumpkins and stupid, but they bring all of their shenanigans. There's a lot of things that you experience down here, right? Yeah, that's another thing. Non-Southern whites love the cops, love them niggas. Granted, it's a little bit more scary because Southern whites, some Southern whites will just take shit into their own hands, but really, I prefer that. Let me just fight your ass one good time. We don't need to call the cops. We don't need to do none of that shit. We're just gonna have this 1-2, or we're gonna have this 1-2, and whatever happens, happens. And you're gonna leave me the fuck alone. So like, there's pros and cons to the whole thing. Right. All right, where was I? Yeah. That's another thing about the South. The type of flagrant disrespect that happens outside of the South because y'all have the type of relationship y'all have with guns, that shit does not happen down here. A lot of that blatant disrespect that these motherfuckers be doing in the Pacific Northwest or New York or LA because they know no one has a gun on them, that does not happen in the South. That doesn't happen in the South. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the. It's terrible. It's toxic. You can't be that way anywhere else. But when in the South, a lot of people talk a lot nicer to you because you never know. You never know who might shoot you. You never know. So it's like everybody's a little bit more cautious. Everybody is very much aware that we need to be a lot more diplomatic when we're interacting with each other because motherfuckers are crazy. And who the fuck knows? Nobody knows. So like I like that about the South. But I'm also born and raised here. And I can still carry. So which reminds me, I gotta get my gun out of my mom's car. Anyways. Is it hottie? Hey! Just here! We got another regular up in this bitch. Fuck yeah, guy. Nice. Welcome. I'm not quite a hottie, but I'm working on it, slowly but surely. Okay. So, in conclusion, jumping back, I'm going to try to go through this a lot quicker. I'm sorry, guys. I love the tangents. I love them. But in conclusion of chapter 4, corporations exercise sovereignty, right? They have the ability to exercise sovereignty in a way that workers cannot, and in all intents and purposes are blocked from being able to do, right? They are an unaccountable power over territory, people, and law, right? We can see that with these data centers. These data centers popping up everywhere is a perfect example of how corporations have sovereignty over territory. and power over territory. No matter how many times people are fighting this shit, they are popping up these data centers literally everywhere, right? And they're also using the fact that the country is so racist that they are putting their first data centers in black and brown neighborhoods. That is an example of having power over your territory. Thank you, Skanky. Appreciate you. Um, having power over people. The example of that Amazon worker dying, not being attended to. The other workers being forced to continue to do labor despite the fact that their coworker is dead right next to them. That is power. Power over law. We can see that during the Black Lives Matter movements and all that stuff, especially in Minneapolis, where you had Target playing a major role in changing the laws, adding surveillance, all this other shit, right? These corporations have sovereignty to do that, right? In a very similar way to the state, right? Corporations can write a law and give it to a politician and it'll be passed way faster than whatever you motherfuckers are making a petition for. And that there's something to be said and acknowledged about that. You know, they get to move like that. G4S, the security company, operates prisons, deports migrants, and has been implicated in deaths while escaping persecution or prosecution. Thank you guys, appreciate it. There is a few in this chapter. It's really illustrating this fusion of corporate and state power, right, and showing that it's not a corruption of capitalism. Like this relationship between the corporate and state power, that is a feature, not a bug. You know, it's quite literally the essence of capitalism, is allowing corporations and the state to function, if not identically, completely enmeshed, right? So now we hit chapter 5. And in chapter 5, it is called Buying Time, How Big Banks Planned. So we went through corporations, and now we're going to see how big banks do their planning. Oh, God. There it is. Y'all let me know if everything's good on that YouTube side. I don't know. I'm just going to assume it is. You know what? I'm going to stop asking y'all. I'm going to find out when I stop the live. I'm going to find that shit out when I stop this live. We're going to find out how bad it is. Okay. So in this chapter, it talks about like financial institutions and how they act as quote unquote time lords of capitalism, determining which companies, individuals, and states survive. Like financial institutions get to do that. Blakeley uses the WeWork and SoftBank relationship to kind of demonstrate this. SoftBank's Masayoshi's son invested 4.4. Man, when we went over this chapter, it was wild because this poor man don't know how to do nothing but lose money. I remember this one. Masayoshi's son quite literally gets paid to lose billions of dollars on a consistent basis. So diving into this motherfucker, that asshole invested $4.4 billion in WeWork, based on a 12-minute tour of the business. And when the fraudulent IPO collapsed, Sun's bailout allowed WeWork to restructure rather than fail, right? So when when Sun's mistake finally bit him in the ass, instead of allowing that mistake to bite him in the ass, they restructured the mistake so that instead of it failing, it would be able to survive to bite in the ass yet again, right? So the chapter explains how banks create money banks create money out of nothing, out of nowhere, right? And they do this through lending and not they're doing this by lending to each other and to corporations and all this stuff, and not through, taking out of their savings or their existing savings. And this is a very powerful tool, right? That is given to financial institutions by the state. The government allows institutions to be able to do this, right? And it gives these banks like a vast authority over planning without any democratic accountability. Financial institutions can make decisions that will affect hundreds of millions of people without a single vote being casted, right? And there's no way to hold them accountable for that, right? So the main limit on lending is demand and confidence, right? So uncertain expectations about the future will fuck up the lending. That's the only thing that puts a restraint on this, right? But outside of that, they can do whatever the fuck they want. They can, as long as people want money to be loaned to them, and everybody feels like they have the confidence to pay back them loans, these banks can do whatever the fuck they want. We are getting ready to get into an era where everybody realizes that we don't have that much confidence. Thank you, stock market, and that magnificent 7 corporations and their Ponzi scheme. In chapter 5, a Rudolf Heifelding's financial capital is cited, and it showed that banks and industrial corporations become increasingly intertwined over time, right? So banks and industrial corporations become intertwined. That's what finance capital kind of posits and demonstrates. Major corporate scandals like Enron or WorldCom or Bernie Madoff, which is the only fucking banker that went to jail for 2008, and even with the AI bubble and OpenAI, to bring like a more recent example, all of this involved close relationships with banks like JP Morgan and Skank of America, right? And these banks knew about the fraud but didn't act, right? So to bring it down to our most recent, financial fuckery, these banks are very much aware that Amazon, OpenAI, Nvidia, all these the Magnificent 7, these banks are aware that these companies are just circulating money to pretend like they're actually making a profit. Amazon will sell to Nvidia for $25,000, and Nvidia will invest some of that $25,000 into Amazon. It's a whole fucking Ponzi scheme that the financial institutions are aware of, and they are not doing shit about it. They're not doing anything about it, and we can see that they're not doing it. Like, everybody, if you spend 15 seconds diving into that shit, you know that this is a Ponzi scheme. You know that this is a scam, and we're just lay people, right? The banks know exactly what is happening with the Magnificent 7. They're not going to do anything about it, but allow them to continue to be evaluated as trillion dollar fucking corporations. That's all they're going to fucking do, right? Right, passing the same $100 between each other and reporting back to the government and to these financial institutions as if that $100 bill is profit. Wild fucking work, So central banks have become overt planners through quantitative easing, right? So the Fed uses quantitative easing to kind of create money to purchase assets, right? They'll just create money out of thin air, right? Starbucks is a bank. We just talked about in the previous chapter that we did a review on Ford creating a credit company with Ford Motor Vehicles. So they're a bank. Most of our corporations have financialized to become like little mini banks, right? But we have central banks that are also dictating how things are planned in society through quantitative easing, which is something that, keep in mind that term, because that will be spiraling up in the next like year or two. I promise you that, if not sooner, right? So they create, the quantitative easing essentially creates money out of thin air so that the Fed can purchase assets, which primarily benefits the wealthy by inflating the price of these assets, right? So in the chapter, it talks about the Greenspan put. Greenspan as in Alan Greenspan. And this is a state-backed insurance for banks, right? And it encouraged risk-taking, the very risk-taking that led to the 2008 crash. Because Phil is here, y'all. Hey, Philly, brat. All right, Phil is here. All is right with the world. Okay, great. So yeah, They, thank you, Lonnie. What's up? Yes. Thank you. Appreciate it. What's this?
A homemade chai.
Thank you. We got breakfast, y'all. Everybody say thanks, Mom.
You're
Everybody.
welcome.
Let him out if he wants to do that. Ooh. Mm. Fucking delicious. I love these sausages. Mm. All right. Mm. I needed that. So essentially, with quantitative easing, it allows for these fucking banks and these banks to start betting. The financial institutions, they'll just bet. They'll sell you one thing, bet against you on the next, and because it's all pretty much insured, it's free money. You get to gamble with other people's money and do whatever the fuck you want to do with it, right? And if it falls, or if it fails, or if the bet doesn't go out, because it's insured, that means that the government or the Fed is ensuring that everything is safe. No, I'm good. Thank you. Yeah. So they're able to do that shit. So in the chapter, they talk about the big three asset managers, right? And these are some. Hey, what up, Anthro? With these big three, these are some corporations that we know and love. All right, these are some asset managers we're very much aware of. So you have things like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, right? And these three asset managers collectively own about 20% of the S&P 500 companies and act as de facto permanent governing board for global capitalism. Like, because they own almost a third of that market, they get to make a lot of rules because they're on the board of quite literally everything. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. Okay. Most of the time we hear BlackRock because it's the biggest one. Vanguard is like the second biggest. State Street is like the third, whatever. But yeah, one of them three, if not all three, are going to be involved in these fucking corporations, right? Now BlackRock controls over $10 trillion in assets. That is a lot of power for BlackRock. It means that they get to dictate a lot of things and a lot of rules in these financial institutions and these corporations and over these assets because they own so much. $10 trillion, nothing to sniff at. That's more than some country's fucking GDP, right? So more than they have more than the GDP of like all countries but three. Can anybody guess the three countries that BlackRock alone, BlackRock alone has more money than? It's the United States, China, and I believe India. Those are the three countries that BlackRock doesn't have more money than. Everybody else, they got more money in their pockets. That's insane. Okay? That's how big $10 trillion is. Insane. Controlling the IMF and foreign policy. Yeah. Wild work. Right? So essentially, Chapter 5 really does illustrate to us how banks and financial institutions are allowed to plan. And when we say planning, we mean like have the authority to dictate how things are structured in our society. They have a say in how our society is going to play out, right? That means laws, that means business practice, that means who gets to own what, who gets to sell what to who, all of that, okay? They get to have that control, right? So in chapter 6, this is where we learn how the state itself plans. Chim China, you already know. For those of you who don't know, Chim China is an inside joke with some of us in the regulars here at the book club. you know, when we get back into the swing of things, a lot of y'all, I will open up the mic because, you know, reading out loud can take a lot of energy out of a motherfucker. So I will open up the mic so that other people can read along. And, you know, sometimes, name of the game, we just be mispronouncing shit. But Chim China worked out. I like Chim China. I think that Trini, I think on my other account, that's your nickname, is Chim China, just as a heads up. But yeah, so in chapter 6, we talk about how states plan, right? And for this, the chapter dives into ExxonMobil and how ExxonMobil knew about climate breaking down since the 1970s, but they spent nearly $290 million lobbying the government to deny the existence of the climate breakdown, right? They funded shadow groups to spread misinformation and had direct access to the Trump administration. So the fuckery has been from the 70s till today, right? From the 70s till today, ExxonMobil has been on some fuck shit, okay, about climate change. Wild work. So the company targeted 6 Democratic senators, including Joe Manchin, our beloved Joe Manchin, with donations and lobbying, right? And despite Biden's campaign promises, his administration expanded offshore drilling. Goes to show that when they pay you to do something, no matter what the fuck you say on the campaign trail, you gonna do what you paid to do. Okay, you're gonna do what you're paid to do. I think that is a reality. Word, we'll be here. That is a reality that too few citizens understand. Politicians do what they are paid to do. And if you're not paying them, somebody else is. Okay, that was the most important lesson of Occupy Wall Street and the financial crisis of 2008. Follow that fucking money. Because I guarantee you, when you follow the money, when you follow the hand that is feeding these motherfuckers, you will know exactly the interests of these people. You'll know exactly what laws are going to get passed and what laws aren't. You're going to know exactly how these motherfuckers are going to try to move. Because they're going to try to move in the interest of whoever is paying them. I guarantee the American people are not paying politicians. You can't become a millionaire off of just getting paid by the American people as a civil servant. That's impossible. Right? These motherfuckers are going by who pays them. Okay? So one example of this is ExxonMobil paying the fuck out of people like Joe Manchin, putting millions of dollars into the coffers of a Biden campaign or a Harris campaign or a Trump campaign. They be paying whoever's going to do the bidding. That's who they paying, right? And in this chapter, Blakeley argues that states are not autonomous entities floating above society, but they're social relationships. That's what the state is. And by the state, we mean like the government, the state apparatus, right? Their actions reflect the balance of class and power. The neoliberal state is highly porous for capital, right? They'll do a lot. They have a lot of leeway. You can come in and out. Money flows, laws flow in and out, and they're very, very susceptible to capital. But when it comes to labor, they're impenetrable. You can't do a lot when it comes to labor. You got to rob Peter to pay Paul. You got to fucking give your left kidney to have the state do anything that's going to benefit labor and labor only. Okay? That's the relationship that the state has in this country and in a lot of capitalistic countries, right? They'll do a lot for capital. They're not going to do much for labor. And that's a problem. The Green Seal capital scandal that is described in this chapter is a scandal that happened in the UK, and it exemplifies this type of relationship that we're talking about. The Green Seal capital scandal is rooted in former Prime Minister David Cameron lobbying on behalf of Green Seal Capital, which was a failed finance firm. And David Cameron earned $10 million to lobby for this failed finance firm. David Cameron is the former Prime Minister of the UK. For those of you who don't follow UK politics and shit or anything like that, he was one of the I think he's after Tony Blair. Yeah, it's like Tony Blair. Tony Blair is 2001 Afghanistan mistake. David Cameron is corporate, dick sucker mistake, right? That motherfucker got to lobby on this finance firm and he made $10 million to do that shit. Okay, he made a lot of money lobbying on behalf of this, right? And this is all while the government bailed out connected companies. So you have this former politician, here we go with this revolving door again, this former prime minister, leader of the UK. Yes, yeah. The Black Mirror episode, exactly, yeah. So you have this revolving door where the former prime minister is now lobbying for this finance firm, using all of his connections that he probably gained by being a politician to get the current politicians that are in power in the United Kingdom to start bailing out companies that were connected to this fucked up finance firm. All right. So in this chapter, they describe a concept called governmentality, right? And this is from Michael Foucault. And it explains this concept explains how neoliberals govern by constructing certain kinds of subjects, right? Or homo economists, as one would say, the rational, self-interest or self-interested human capital who sees life as a portfolio to manage rather than a collective struggle, right? It's very game theory-esque. And the UK's nudge unit used behavioral economics to shape behavior. But also, it created the hostile environment that destroyed the lives of Windrush generation migrants. The Windrush generation, for those of you who don't know, are all of the predominantly black subjects that were in colonial territories of the United Kingdom. So think, the British Virgin Islands, think Guyana, think Jamaica, all after World War II, they wanted cheap labor to rebuild the United Kingdom. And what they did was they invited all of the residents in these British colonies to come back to the main island to rebuild their shit on the cheap. And then once everybody got their independence, they all pretended like none of them black people did anything. They started treating them like, migrants that are unwelcome, despite the fact that they were once British citizens. Fun fucking times. The racism of the UK, everybody, that no British person really pays attention to or knows what it's about. Life as a portfolio means like your business portfolio. Like you have your 401k portfolio, you got a little bit of investment here in like medical supplies, you got a little bit of investment in AI, you got a little bit of investment in here. It's basically like your Rolodex of things that you own. That is saying like that's how the neoliberal concept sees the homo economist. They're not a part of a collective. They're just this self-interested, greedy person that is looking at their life like what have they invested in and what can they profit from. That's essentially what that means. So the UK created this fucked up hostile environment for the Windrush migrants. All right, so these are people who came from the Caribbean. The Windrush generation, the migration was between 1948 to 1971, right? And they like fuck these people over royally, because when you have cheap labor and you have leverage over cheap labor, you can do whatever the fuck you want with them. And that's exactly what they did with the Windrush generation. Till this day, some of the effects of this is being felt, right? So chapter 6 contrasts the neoliberal governance with developmentalism in China. Right? So you have the Evergrande collapse that showed China's state-owned banks will roll over unpayable debts to maintain stability. They focus on having stability more so than anything else, as opposed to, what the UK has done, right? But this reflects the same class dynamics as Western states, just with different tactics. Whether neoliberal or developmental, States are not neutral rule setters, but instruments that's shaped by class struggle, right? They're not neutral. They're not like this, blind eye, balancing the scales type shit. They are active agents in the class struggle, and they are not on our side. They are on the side of capital. That's essentially what chapter 6 is demonstrating. Now, lastly, the last chapter that we completed and read through was chapter 7, which is called Money at 6%. And this goes into how empires plan, right? So, yes, we have states, state apparatus, state governments, and all that stuff, but not all state governments are empires. There's only a few of those, right? The biggest empire right now is the United States, but the United Kingdom is an empire because they still have territories overseas. France is an empire, despite the fact that a lot of the countries that in Africa that France has been raping and pillaging are kicking those French motherfuckers out. Thank you. I will when I'm done. The Dutch is an empire. Italy is an empire. Like a lot of the old colonial powers are variations of empires, right? So we have to learn how an empire plans. Okay. So in chapter 7, it dives into U.S. imperialism and how it expands beyond formal colonies to the structure of the global economy, right? So it goes over this transition of just owning the territory like we do in like Guam or Puerto Rico and just owning the global economic market instead, right? It's something that we learned, something that the United States learned from Mother Britain, because that over the post-war period, that's essentially what Britain learned how to do, how to remove itself from being a territorial power, colonial power, to being a financial colonial power. Right? America's going to do the same thing. So in the Philippines, they were promised independence only when it achieved a stable government, right? And that was a stable government as defined by American General Leonard Wood, right? And that definition was money at 6%, i.e., it had to be attractive for U.S. investors, right? The U.S. investors should be able to make money, like give a loan and then make a little bit, like 6% profit off of that. Yes, Fort Leonard Wood. There you go. We're connecting this shit, y'all. Okay? A lot of bastards are named after things, or things are named after a lot of bastards. The CIA ran the Philippines during this time, and the Marcos dictatorship was supported by the US and the World Bank. And they were supported, like the Marcos dictatorship was supported precisely to make sure that US investors had money at 6% profit, right? So chapter 7 dives into a thing called dependency theory, and it explains how the global economy is divided into an industrialized core and an agrarian periphery, right? So, in terms of trade decline, for peripheral states, in terms of trade, decline for peripheral states trapped them in commodity dependence, right? So, for example, when Guatemala's president, Jacobo Arbenz, attempted land reform that threatened the United Fruit Company, now known as Chiquita, as in like Chiquita banana, the CIA orchestrated a coup in 1954 and installed a regime that killed thousands, right? We will see this rinse, wash, repeat over and over again for the dependency theory, right? The same thing happened with Allende in Chile. The same thing happened with Mossadegh in Iran, right? During this time, the CIA was like, oh, you don't want to be amendable to U.S. investors? Well, we're just going to kill you. We're just going to kill you. We're going to send an economic jackal to try to convince you to do otherwise. And if you don't listen, then we'll just kill you and put a dictator instead. And millions of people get to die when that happens, right? So that is the structure that the CIA helped to craft in benefit of corporations. right? And you can only really do that if you're an imperial force. You can't do that if you just like you don't see fucking you don't see Greece being able to do that shit. Okay, you got to be an empire to be able to have that kind of swag and power over people, right? Another concept that the chapter goes over is neo-colonialism, right? Which is which is something that Kwame. I always fuck up this name. Kwame Rukma. I don't know. Y'all know the guy I'm talking about. Um, this is described as like formerly independent states whose economic policy is directed from the outside, right? So if you look at the example in the chapter, the Vulture shock, in 1981, US interest rates hiked to 20%, right? That engineered a global recession that crushed labor movements while plunging poor countries into debt. You know, so another example is when the interest rate went up and basically had Argentina's money being fucking useless. The whole fucking thing. I think this is like early 2000s that happened. Basically bankrupt Argentina, right? So when larger central banks hike up their interest rates because everybody else's commodity, everybody else's money is attached to the dollar, when the dollar becomes more expensive to have, that makes everything exponentially worse in poorer countries where it's harder to get a dollar, right? So that's essentially what that is. Um, we also talk about structural adjustment programs or SAPs, and this is imposed by the IMF and the World Bank, and it essentially forces countries to privatize their government services and implement austerity, meaning cutting taxes or cutting access to these services, making it more expensive. Quote, they'll call it tightening your belt so that the citizenry don't have access to what they once did. And it also requires them to have a liberalization of debtor nations, right? Which means like liberalization of debt, meaning like having flooding debt into these countries. That's really what the IMF does. Is like we'll give you this loan so that you can do this, that, and the third, but you can't build this type of infrastructure. Hey, what's up, man? I'm chilling. We're going over a review of what we've read so far in our book for our book club. But yeah, like they flood a country with debt, put all these rules and addendums on it, like, hey, when we go to the UN, you need to vote this way, you need to have this type of commodity, you need to have this type of export, all of this shit, in order for you to get some type of relief. And that's the debtor's trap that a lot of countries in the global south are stuck in, right? So these are tools that are used by empires to maintain their control over the global economy, right? Another tool that is used is investor state dispute settlements, which is a provision in trade treaties that allow corporations to sue governments for policies that harm their profits. So, for example, in this chapter, they talk about Chevron, and Chevron used the ISDS, or the Investor State Dispute Settlement, to overturn a $9.5 billion Ecuadorian judgment for Amazon rainforest contamination, right? While spending millions trying to destroy the plaintiff's lawyer, Stephen Donziger. Look up Stephen Donziger for real, because that is like a, a wild ass fucking situation that happened. Chevron essentially sued an entire government because the government had the audacity to want to protect the Amazon rainforest that they are stewards of, sued them, and put Donziger through literal hell. I'm pretty sure there's like a bunch of YouTube stories about him and all that other stuff. It is fucking wild what they did to that poor man. Fucking crazy, right? But essentially, this chapter goes over like the international system, how the international system institutionalizes a human right to capital flight, allowing wealthy individuals and corporations to punish any country that threatens property rights by being able to leave that country, right? So when they be threatening, and you can see this even on a micro scale, when Mamdani became mayor and all the businesses were like, we're going to leave. That's essentially what they're doing. There's an intentional institutionalization of this idea that corporations and people have a right to just fucking up and leave or up and sue to get what they want, right? And they will sue. They'll sue a mayor. They'll sue a city. They'll sue a state. They'll sue a country to be able to get what they want, right? This essentially ensures that the global south remains subordinate to the global north. For those of you who don't know what the global north is, that's basically the United States, United States, Canada, Australia, and much of Western Europe, or just far West Asia, right? So your England, your Germany, your France, the motherfuckers, they are the global north, right? And everyone else is the global south. And with this setup and with these tools, it essentially allows the global south to be under the boot of the global north, right? So much is extracted from the global south into the global north for just the benefit of the global north and its ability to profit. That's what that is. And when they can't use those tools, they'll use the dollar, right? The dollar's role as a global reserve company, honest Freudian slip, but the dollar's role as a global reserve currency, backed by U.S. military power, completes this system of imperial planning, right? So it's like, we're going to force all of the global south to attach their shit to the US dollar. And not just the global south, but literally everybody. If you want anything, you have to worry about the US dollar because that is the reserve currency of the entire world, right? And that allows for the United States, as the largest empire, to have so much power over the entire globe because it's set up this economic system to only benefit or primarily benefit the United States. All right. So that's basically an entire review and summary of all the chapters that we have gone over in this book so far. We have one last part and one last section of the book, which is part 3, democratic planning, right? And I think we started chapter 8 and all that good shit. We started chapter 8. We did. Which is basically the latter chapter of this book is showing us or giving us examples of how we can do things differently, right? So I'm going to leave it there and open up the floor to discussion and all that good shit. Next week, Saturday, is when we will dive back into this book. I'm probably going to just try to do a whole ass fucking marathon and read through both of those chapters all through Saturday and through the conclusion. Try to have like a quick discussion about it and then move on to the next book that we want to read because, trying to just keep it pushing, right? But with everything that we have discussed and all other stuff, let's open it up. Let's digest. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about all this other things. Like, do you guys have any questions? Any tidbits or anything like that? It doesn't necessarily have to be about the book either, because I'm gonna be eating while I respond to y'all. If that makes sense. I feel like we're on the verge of experiencing how differently it can be done. I have that feeling too. I don't know how accurate it is. Ooh. It's actually good. You have a stand-up show next Saturday. Fuck yeah. All right, community. Where is it gonna be? If you feel comfortable saying that. Everyone, we got one of our regulars out here, Trini. You gonna be doing some stand-up and shit. I haven't read the book. Welcome, Sophie. Look. Well, that's what we're gonna need. We're gonna need community first. If you're in Trini's area and you're a part of this book club, go and support. I'm always proud when we go outside and start connecting with the people that we live around. I fucks with that heavy. I will always encourage our village to bring what we learn here digitally to the real fucking life. So fuck yeah. That's fine. Yeah. All right, bet. So if any of you motherfuckers are in Georgia, what date is it? When are the, or what is it? Yeah, I don't know. I gotta look at a calendar. Hold on. Let me ask him what date it is. Like I don't have a calendar and shit. What time? May 9th? All right. May 9th, Saturday, Savannah, Georgia. One of our own is going to be doing a stand-up show. So if you're in that area, go ahead, check it out. 8 p.m. 8 p.m. I don't know where. Where is it? Where is it going to be? I'm saying this I'm doing this like I got like 50,000 followers or some shit. I don't. But let's support each other all we can. You know what I'm saying? Little goes a long way. Hell yeah. Good. Good. I was actually in Australia last year. This time last year I was in. Yeah, this time last year I was in Australia. Uh, y'all have really good food for being such a white colonial country. Like the freshness of the food goes a long way. I really enjoyed eating food in Australia. That was a good time. Surprisingly enough. Yeah. Yeah. All right. McDonald's, McDonald's. Is that how you say it? McDonald's or McDonuffs? McDonuffs? Is it McDonuffs or McDonald's? I don't know. McDonuffs or McDonald's bar, Savannah, Georgia, May 9th, 8 p.m. Go support the fam. Go support the fam. Okay? If anybody else has anything that you guys do. Dunna. Okay. All right. So McDonough. My bad. McDonough bar, 8 p.m. May 9th. We got a stand-up show. One of our own will be doing the stand-up. So sucks that you can't stream it, but I truly, it's gonna be fucking dope. I already know you're gonna do a great job. You've been going outside a lot. I fucks with it heavy. I really do. But yeah, all right, nice, nicely done, kid. Nicely done. But yeah, what else? Yeah, if you guys don't have any questions, we can just shoot the shit for a little bit. You know, we can just shoot the shit and chill. Because really, this is the next chapter. Oh, okay. My last was hell yeah, I'll watch it. Yeah, just message me the stream. Also, drop the stream in on the Patreon. Okay, just as a heads up, you guys, for those of you who are watching this after the live and all this other good shit, I have a Patreon. Let me go ahead and bring that shit up so that you guys can see it. You know, boo, 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 boo. It's called the Pantheon of Mischief. All right, this is where the entire community goes. If you're on YouTube, that's oh, I guess my internet's acting all whack, but oop. Yeah. So if you're on YouTube, you'll see it. We have a Patreon place, right? And I don't know how everybody else is doing their Patreon and shit, but this place really is just a community place, right? So if you're part of the fam, if you want to be part of the book club, you want to be part of House Husband Haven's harem. Damn, I don't know if I should call you guys my harem. We'll workshop it. We'll workshop it. If y'all want to be part of the community, come through on Patreon. Everything that is ever done will be free. You know, be a member so that you can get, updates and all this other shit when I can remember to, interact with, Patreon and all that good shit. But all of the content that I have here, all of the content that I share on YouTube will be free on Patreon. The only thing I say is that if you want to donate, you can. It's totally a donation-based Patreon. Yeah, totally donations based. There's a lot of things that I'm changing and things that I want to do. I want to talk to the community first about changing what we do with those donations. Mostly because the kid is unemployed right now. I'm trying my best to not even touch. I haven't touched Patreon or the Patreon funds that have been, used or like gathered or collected so far. Haven't even touched it. I forget that Patreon exists most of the time. Word, Sophie. Thank you for hanging out, man. Yeah, I don't touch that shit. I wanted to talk to you guys first. Thank you. Thank you, Trini. I appreciate it. Yeah. I wanted to talk to the community first. Because when I started this Patreon, I had a job and shit, so I didn't really worry about it. But my goal was to like every month or every 3 months, however, much we could collect. We all as a collective decide to either donate that money or, reinvest it into the community or whatever. Like that's what I wanted to do with my Patreon funds. I don't necessarily want it to go to me. Is essentially what I'm saying. But we might have to switch that up a little bit. We might have to switch that up a little bit. But yeah, I want to be 100% transparent with that shit, where your money is going and who it's going to, even if it is coming to me, and it's not a requirement. It will never be a requirement, right? So this community is not transactional. You can be a part of this community for absolutely free. I just want your time. I want your time. I want your experience, and I want you to share that with us. That's the only price you got to pay to be in community with us on that Patreon. Everything else is, what it is. So if you are into it, please go check it out. If you don't like Patreon or don't know what Patreon is, don't care for Patreon, I also have my YouTube channel, which I'm going to show right now, I think. Let's see. Nope, that's not it, because I changed the YouTube channel name. Citizen Cocaine is the YouTube channel now. That'll come up. If you're not into Patreon, swing over to the kids' YouTube channel and shit. I'm trying to change things. It is mad messy. It's not spit pine, spit, shine, and polished just yet. Oh damn. I guess I did that wrong. Fuck it. Let's just do it this though. Yeah. It's not super polished. I'm working as I go. I'm figuring it out and all this other stuff. But it's there. It exists. I'm trying to make sure y'all don't see no weird shit. I don't think there's porn. I don't watch porn on YouTube, but your nephew is outside with his Mima. Yeah, your nephew's outside with his Mima. There it. Oh, there's an underscore. Forgot it. I needed to do that. But yeah. You motherfuckers want to check out, on YouTube, I'm showing y'all this. If you want to check that shit out, citizen underscore cocaine, COKANE, is a YouTube channel. Check me out there. By all means, come through and hang out and all that good shit. I think that's all I got for you guys, to be honest. I'm so glad. I've missed you. I need y'all to know that. Hold on. Let me say it in the mic. You guys can't hear it on TikTok, but you can hear it on YouTube. I missed you guys. Honestly, truly. No jokes aside, no bullshit. I missed my community. I miss this book club. I miss all 12 of you that come through and hang out with me, and we talk about things and we learn things together. I've missed you guys. It really is such a pleasure to spend my Saturdays with you guys. It really, really is. So I'm so glad that we're back. I'm trying my best to figure this shit out. A lot of things are going to be changing. This is very much like that Chinese restaurant in the strip mall, where it's like, we under new management, but you're gonna have to see all the construction. You're gonna see all this shit getting built up. Y'all gonna be bearing witness to this. I don't have time to hide it from you. It takes a lot of work, but I appreciate all of you. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate all the new people who followed me off of whatever I've been doing. Yes, you, Manny, you too. Welcome. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for spending your time with me. I really do appreciate it. I missed every last fucking one of you. I think about you guys often. Like, do not underestimate the impact that you have on my life. I think about you guys often. I always hope that you guys are having a good time, surviving this shit and all that other stuff. So, like, Thank you. Um, that just concludes us doing this review of what we read so far. So if you don't already know, for the uninitiated, we're gonna be wrapping up. I promise you. I like dead ass. We wrapping this shit up. We wrapping it up, yo, for real. Um, Vulture Capitalism by Grace Blakeley. That is the book that we are going to be finishing up come next fucking Saturday. Hell or high water. I got to do that shit all day. I'm reading through these chapters. But we're going to finish this book. If you don't have the book, that is more than fine. We have all the resources that you might need to get it. Come hook or come crook. You know what I'm saying? So if you want the book through a library, we got resources for that. You want to just download the book for free, we got a resource for that. If you appreciate the work that Grace Blakeley has put into this shit and you want to buy that shit, go ahead and buy it. We got resources for that as well. There is many different ways for you to get access to this text so that you can read along with me, read along with the fam, read along with the village, the harem. I don't know what you guys are going to name yourselves. I'm going to leave that to y'all. I'm going to leave it to y'all. Name yourselves whatever you want as a collective. I'll give y'all that. But yeah, that's it. I think that's it. That's all I can. That's all I can say. I'm gonna eat this nice ass. I'm gonna eat this nice ass breakfast. Uh, mm. I really shouldn't eat on live because I know some of y'all are freaks and you like watch my motherfuckers eat. That's gonna have to be on the OnlyFans and shit. But yeah. Next book. That's a great question. I have so many. I have so many book ideas. I think I want to go fiction for the next book. I think I want to go fiction for the next book. There is a solar punk book that I've been dying to read to you guys. Been dying to read it. Let me see. Is it here? It's somewhere. Is this the first one? Is this the first one? Yes. I've been dying to read this book to you guys. That's one of the reasons why I want to hurry up and get through this book. Not because the information is terrible, but just because I really want to read a fiction book. I want to read a fiction book that is entertaining and that gives us hope. I think the last 3 books, what is it? Capital Order, Work Won't Love You Back, How to Hide an Empire, Vulture Capitalism. The last 4 books that we've touched on in this book club have been depressing as fuck. So I want to spend the summer reading something that's not so depressing. You know what I'm saying? So this. If you guys want to do it, that's great. When oop, oop, when You Had Power by Susan K. Quinn. This is the book that I want to read to you guys. Bam, here it is. Would you like me to read the synopsis to you so you know what we're getting into? And there again, I don't know the Trini. Remind me the name of that book that you were talking about with the masked lesbian or something. It was good. I just know that I was really interested in it. All right, so we can put that on the docket as well. I'll try to make like a poll. I'll do a poll on the Patreon and see what you guys are interested in. Actually, I could just do that shit right now. Let me. Boop, boop. Back. Oh shit, wrong thing. All right, whatever. Boom. All right, we're gonna read this page. This little blurb. All right. For better, for worse, in sickness and in health. It is a legal vow of care for families in 2050, a world beset by waves of climate-driven plagues. Power engineer Lucia Ramirez long ago lost her family to one being one of the climate-driven plagues. She'd give anything to take that vow. The Power Islands give humanity a fighting chance, but tending kelp farms and solar lilies is a lonely job. The housing AI found her a family match, saying she should fit right in with the Senegalese retraining expert who's a force of nature, the ex-pandemic core cook with his own cozy channel, and even the writer who insists everything is stories, all the way down. This family of literal and metaphorical refugees could be the shelter she's seeking from her own personal storm. She needs this one to work. Then, an unscheduled power outage and a missing turtlebot crack open a mystery. Something isn't right on Power Island 1, but every step she takes to solve it, someone else gets there first, and they're determined to make her unsee what she's seen. Lucia is an engineer, not a detective, but fixing this problem might cost her the one thing she truly needs: a home. When You Had Power is the first of 4 tightly connected novels in a new hope punk series. It's about our future, how society will shift and flex like a solar lily in the storms of our own making, and how breaks in the social fabric have to be expected, tended to, and healed, because we're in this together now more than ever before. So this is the book I want to read to you guys next. So if you guys are interested in this, it'll be on the poll. Trini is gonna probably give me the title of the other book and all that stuff. I want some fiction. You know, I would prefer either hope punk or solar punk, because those are 2 genres that I want to dive into. But it could be whatever you guys want to read. Whatever you guys want to read. Back here, where that nigga at? Papa. Here he is. I can take this off so you guys can actually see this motherfucker. Why are you huffing and puffing like that? Manaki, come here. Here he is. All right. But yeah, that's it. That's all. I'll see you guys next week. You know? Yeah, Afrofuturist? Fuck yeah, let's do that. You know I like black people shit. He is so handsome. But yeah, that's it. My fiance is calling me. I gotta answer. I gotta call her back and all that good shit. But yeah, thank you guys for sharing your Saturday morning with me. I appreciate it. Get away from my plate. You know damn well. Stop playing with me. Stop playing with me, man. Yeah, but thank you guys. Thank you for sharing your Saturday with me. I will see you guys next week, Saturday, 9 a.m. Okay, so that's the 9th. No, Maggie, you are more than fine, yo. You're more than fine. You're Saturday, 9th. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it, fam. We're going to be right here, 9 o'clock, Eastern Standard Time. Okay? So, yeah, be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. I got two new like closing, colloquialisms and shit, which is do what's right, not what's legal, and only justice can bring peace. All right, y'all be breezy out here. All right, okay, love you. Oh, hold on. Let me stop fucking streaming. Okay, love you. Bye. Stop.